Today on Inquirer, Chinese Coast Guard vessel carries out dangerous maneuvers near Philippine Coast Guard ship according to PCG. 227 Filipinos evacuate from Sudan to Egypt. Muntinlupa court reopens the Lima drug case. And Marcos names new acting chief of SRA board. Good afternoon. The Philippine Coast Guard says it recently conducted maritime patrols in the West Philippine Sea where a Chinese Coast Guard vessel carried out, quote, dangerous maneuvers. John Eric Mendoza has the report.
The Chinese Coast Guard carried out dangerous maneuvers near a Philippine Coast Guard vessel in the West Philippine Sea. That is according to PCG spokesperson to West Philippine Sea Affairs, Commodore J. Tariela. Tariela says two Coast Guard vessels, BRP Malapascua and BRP Malabrigo, conducted maritime patrols from April 18 to April 24. But on April 23, the Chinese Coast Guard vessel 5201 carried out dangerous maneuvers near BRP Malapascua, maintaining a perilous distance of only 50 yards. Tariela says the close proximity posed a significant threat to the safety and security of the Philippine vessel and its crew. The Chinese Coast Guard vessel 4202 also persistently followed BRP Malabrigo at a distance of 700 yards, closely monitoring its movements. Meanwhile, China says Friday that the near collision between a Chinese Coast Guard ship and a Philippine patrol vessel was caused by the latter's premeditated and provocative action. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said it was a premeditated and provocative action for the Philippine vessel, adding that the aim was to deliberately find fault and take the opportunity to hype up the incident. Aside from the two Chinese Coast Guard vessels, Tariela says 100 alleged Chinese maritime militia vessels and a People's Liberation Army Navy warship were spotted throughout their patrols. China's actions were anchored on its assertion that it owns almost all of the areas in the South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea. But in 2016, the Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague invalidated China's claim to almost the entire South China Sea. For INQUIRER.net, this is John Eric Mendoza.
The Department of Foreign Affairs is eyeing to bring back home the first batch of 50 overseas Filipino workers from the war-torn Sudan this weekend. Beatriz Pinlac reports.
The Department of Foreign Affairs says it is eyeing to bring back the first batch of 50 overseas Filipino workers from the war-torn Sudan this weekend. DFA Undersecretary Eduardo De Vega says the DFA hopes to bring home another 350 OFWs a week later. The DFA, however, has found it difficult to get commercial flights due to competition.
Problema lang yung agawan ng commercial flights then also, pero at least yun ang iniisip namin, hindi yan tumagal pa. Remember po, itong weekend, dapat sana nasa Pilipinas na itong 50, kung hindi siguro Lunes, ganyan.
According to the DFA statement, a total of 496 Filipinos have been evacuated from Khartoum, with 414 of them at the Sudan-Egypt border. Meanwhile, 58 OFWs are at the port of Sudan awaiting the ship that will bring them to Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. The DFA also says that 8 OFWs flew to Athens through the help of the Greek military. 16 others arrived in Jeddah and was met by the DFA's Consulate General there. Earlier, 227 more Filipinos have safely crossed the border and are now in Egypt. They were met by the Philippine ambassador to Egypt, Ezedin Tago. Rapid developments in Sudan have made it difficult for the DFA to give concrete timelines and numbers, with the agency asking for patience if figures do not always align. This is Beatriz Pinlac reporting for INQUIRER.net.
The Presidential Communications Office announces that President Bongbong Marcos has appointed a new acting administrator of the Sugar Regulatory Administration. According to the PCO, Pablo Luis Azcona is now the acting administrator and chief executive officer of the SRA under the Department of Agriculture. Before his appointment, Azcona was a board member of the SRA. as CONA replaces DA Senior Undersecretary Domingo Panganiban, who was acting as the Sugar Administration's officer in charge, following the resignation of former SRA Chief David Tadeus Alba due to health reasons. Alleged irregularities in the country's sugar importation have hounded the SRA, prompting the Senate to conduct an investigation. Next on Inquirer Today, Muntinlupa Court reopens the Lima drug case. BSP says inflation likely eased below 7% in April. This Inquirer Today will be back shortly.
Last February 5 po, meron po kaming arkila. Ang gis po namin ay mga foreign mix po. Nagkakandak daw ng surgical mission sa Rio Tuba, Batara sa Palawan. Din po pagkababa namin sa kanila, kailangan ko pa rin talaga maglinis ng bus kasi may mga maraming basura. May napansin po akong isang medyas doon sa ilalim ng upuan. Tinignan ko kung anong laman sa loob. Kasi akala ko, sabi ko baka pera to eh. Then pag tingin ko nga ng laman niya, hindi nga ako nagkamali, kundi pera talaga. Pero hindi siya Philippine money, kundi US dollar po, dolyares. And then binilang ko po siya nasa 30 piraso po. Bali isang piraso po. Bali nasa 3,000 US dollar po yung lahat, sir. Una ayaw niyang maniwala, pero pinakita ko sa kanya yun. Doon na siya na niwala na, sabi niya, dolyar nga. Sabi niya nga, baka fake daw. Kasi nakalagay lang sa medyas. Sabi ko, hindi, totoo to. Nakakita na rin kasi ako, sabi ko, ng US dollar eh. Wala akong duda na talagang sa mga guest namin yun, kasi sila lang po yung pasahero namin that time eh. Isip ko po na isauli po namin ang driver ko yung pera na yun kasi sabi ko malaki-laking halaga to. Saka isip ko kung siyempre kailangan din yun ng may-ari. Hindi lang po siya 5,000 sa 100 plus na po, 100 plus 1,000. Sabi ko sa driver ko, sabi ko kuya kailangan natin itong i-surrender. Nabalik na po sa totoong may-ari. Ito lang February 11 po, meron silang Thanksgiving party. Pinapunta nila kami doon. Inimbitahan kaming mag-dinner. Tapos after ng dinner po, ayun na, naisaulin na po namin sa totoong may-ari yung mga dolyaris na yon. Nasa harapan na po namin sila, ay siya. Grabe po yung yakap niya sa amin, tsaka pagsabi ng pasasalamat na naibalik sa kanya yung pera niya. Ang masasabi ko lang po sa mga kapwa ko nasa transport na wag po tayong magsasawang gumawa ng mabuti. Isipin na lang po natin yung pera, nauubos yan. Pwede natin kitain yan. Pero yung kagandaang loob po ay hindi mawawala sa isipan ng bawat isa.
A Muntinlupa court reopens for a day the trial for one of the two remaining drug cases filed against detained former Senator Laila de Lima. In an order dated April 24, the Muntinlupa Regional Trial Court Branch 204 granted the prosecution's motion to reopen the trial to allow the presentation of rebuttal evidence with the testimony of lawyer Demitir Huerta of the Public Attorney's Office. Huerta was mentioned by former Bureau of Corrections Officer in Charge Rafael Ragos as among those who assisted him in executing an affidavit stating that he delivered millions of money to the Lima from drug convicts in the NBP. Last year, Ragos issued another affidavit retracting his allegations against the Lima. The defense opposed the bid of the prosecution, saying Ragos was subjected to lengthy cross-examination and 4 full morning hearing dates to debunk his testimony. But the court, in its order, said allowing the reopening of a case for reception of rebuttal of evidence is upon its discretion. The court said it sticks to the original schedule of promulgating the case on May 12, 2023 so as not to cause any delay in this case. The Lima has been detained in Camp Crame, Quezon City since 2017 for her alleged involvement in the illegal drugs trade at the NBP during her stint as Justice Secretary. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas says inflation in April may have settled within the range of 6.3% to 7.1%, suggesting that the readout is more likely lower than 7%. Lower prices of electricity, fish and vegetables, and cooking gas or LPG are expected to have helped ease inflation from 7.6% in March. On the other hand, the higher prices of other fuels as well as rice and meat, along with the depreciation of the Philippine peso, are seen to have helped keep inflation high. The BSP says it remains prepared to respond appropriately to continuing risks on inflation as it makes monetary policy decisions based on data or actual developments. Philippine National Police Chief Major General Benjamin Acorda Jr. urges police officers, even the lowest-ranking ones, to document and report the irregular activities of their superiors. In a television interview, Acorda tells the junior officers to use counterintelligence to keep their ranks clean. He had previously headed the PNP Directorate for Intelligence. He asks them to document the wrongdoings of their superiors or head officers. In the same interview, he also urges the public to do the same and report it directly to him. Acorda adds that should continuous documentation show misbehavior among police personnel, the PNP will take notice and act on it. Tito Sotto, Vic Soto, and Joey De Leon, dubbed as TVJ, appeared to have taken offense when tape executive Bullet Haloshos said that the trio cannot live without Eat Bulaga. In an interview with Showbiz columnist Christopher Min, Tito addresses once again the statements made by Bullet on the controversy surrounding the show. Tito reiterates how he was prompted to speak up to air their side of the story when Fermin asked for his reaction on Bullet's claim that the trio cannot live without the noontime show. Tito stresses that he, Vic, and Joey created Eat Bulaga in 1979. He adds that Bullet's statement is false, noting how the trio had already made a name for themselves even before they became part of the noontime show. When asked who owns the program, Tito maintained that they own the show Eat Bulaga, while Romy Haloshos owns the production company Tape. Tito underscores how Eat Bulaga comprises more than half of their lives and how determined they are to continue the show no matter what it takes. Fermin asks whether the three had ill feelings towards the Haloshos family. Tito replies they are dismayed over what's happening.
Hello Neil at sa mga kabandera natin all over the universe. Heto ang latest chika. Alam nyo bang napakalaki pala ng tinatanaw na utang na loob ng Hollywood actress na si Dolly De Leon sa kanyang kaibigang komedyana na si Eugene Domingo? Sa kanyang interview sa programang Fast Talk with Boy Abunda, ibinunyag ni Dolly na si Eugene ang nagpaaral sa kanyang anak ng 3 taon. Inalala pa nga ni Dolly yung mga panahon na hirap siya sa buhay kaya huminto sa pag-aaral ang kanyang anak. Ayon sa aktres, dito niya nakita kung gaano kabait at kaloyal si Uge dahil hindi raw siya pinabayaan nito. Sabi pa ng international actress, literal na nakasama niya si Eugene sa hirap at ginhawa, kaya naman habang buhay niya ite-treasure ang kanilang friendship. Si Dolly ang itinanghal na Best Supporting Actress sa Los Angeles Critics Award ngayong taon. Yan ay para sa kanyang pagganap sa international film na Triangle of Sadness. At yan ang latest bandera chika natin for today. Thank you, Neil, and happy weekend!
Maraming salamat, Pauline. INQUIRER.net wants to hear from you. Be part of our readers survey and help us understand how you want us to meet your needs. To participate, scan the QR code flashed on your screens or visit www.inq.news/readersurvey. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Catch INQUIRER Today live weekdays at 5 p.m. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good afternoon.